What's up, YouTube? We are back at it again. Books Nelson, thanks for showing up as always. Please like and subscribe. I'll say that right at the beginning. And this is a MyTeam dribble tutorial specific for MyTeam, because if you look online and you see every dribble tutorial, they'll all be talking about the SIGs you should put on. And obviously in MyTeam, you cannot do that, so that those aren't worth much to you guys, especially at this point in the cycle. So let's get right into the content. Before I would love to get on here and just tell y'all, here's how you dribble ABC 1, 2, 3. But we have to talk about the fact that this is a brand new game, right? Brand new video game. And so a lot of things have changed. So what we're going to talk about is what's changed and how you guys can use that to find success in the game. So going right off the bat, the number one thing that has changed is, I don't want to oversimplify it to foot planting, but that's a major part of it. So what Czar talked about in his video, which you guys should all watch, is when you move with the left stick, or when you move at all, the game is taking into consideration everything: where your hips are turned, where your shoulders are turned, what speed you're moving at, all that other stuff. You're not going to do a move and have the move completely ignore all of those factors. So for every card in the game, the way they move, just moving around the court, is going to have a whole bunch of contextual animations unique to that card. So much more so than in previous years, every card really is a character. It's not just a few SIGs. One card's not going to come out with the perfect dribble style and then just every card get that one dribble style. It's not how it's going to go. It's going to be a combination of many things in the game. But what we're going to get into is, what are those many things? All right. So starting from the top, you have your left stick dribbles. The thing I want you to look at with your left stick dribbling is, number one, what happens when you move in one direction and then pull back in another direction. There's going to be a lot of contextual dribbles. I'll give you an example real quick. So say I'm going with Donovan Mitchell and I pull back like that, I can burst out of it. So let's look at that for a quick second. So this pullback right here is a left stick dribble. And did you see that launch, right? And I wasn't even trying to launch that perfectly, but this kind of launch you can be very explosive out of. So changing the pace, the tempo, and the directions of your left stick is going to give you a lot of stuff to work with. I'll give you another example. Say I'm running full court, right? So I'm going to left stick cross and then right stick cross right after. That's a new double cross option in the game that was never there before, right? Like, you could do it, but it wasn't as clean and contextual as it is now. Whereas now, look at that. He got a different animation based on how I was moving, right? So I was moving the left stick, and you guys, if you rewind that, you can see my controller, right? But you see there, left stick, and then came the other way, and then he gave a little extra juke, because Donovan Mitchell has his own pro play dribble style, so he's going to have those things. So yes, every good card you get that can dribble, you have to get into the lab and see what's available to them based on the dribble styles, because the dribble styles have a level of subtlety in them that we have to honor. Okay, that having been said, there are right stick moves that you can use to get moving, and we're going to boil them down to a few different things. Number one, I would say get used to the fact that you can cancel out of all of your shots, right? Now, you've probably heard that before, but bear with me. So you have your snatch back that you can cancel out of, right? Well, not just snatch back, your hop back, right? Your hop shots. So hop back, down, hop back to the left, hop jumper to the right, and then you've got your go-to shot. Now, I pulled all of those off and I let them all go before he started shooting. So essentially they were all dribble moves. So you see here with Donovan Mitchell, let's explore that option for a moment. So when he did his hop to the side, you see he's got this very quick move. If I go through all of Donovan Mitchell's moves, he doesn't have any other moves that are really that quick, right? So what you want to do with that move is look at his feet and figure out the best way to take off from there. So now, even with the takeoff, depending on the dribble style, the angle that you push the left stick, whether or not you push turbo, and when you press the button to go, look at that. See a smoother takeoff, because I'll show you what I was looking at to get that smoother takeoff, right? This is an overall dribble tutorial. This isn't just for Donovan, but the principles that we use for Donovan will go across all of the characters, and some are going to be way better at it than others. Donovan, after exploring for a little while, is much better than I thought when I initially picked up the game and got the card. I got the card pretty early, I forgot where, but I tried to dribble around with him and couldn't really do anything. But now that I have a much better understanding of the dribbling system, I see a lot of potential in this Donovan Mitchell card. Okay, so if you can look at how clean when that right foot comes down. So I'm looking at this animation and I'm looking at this right foot, right? And then I go, and now after seeing that right foot animation, the first 2 attempts that I did, now I'm looking, okay, is it left stick? What's the angle that'll give the best amount of speed off of that with his shoulders, you know, his hips, all of that stuff. And you'll see a nice launch coming out of that. So with all of the hop jumpers, that's something you want to learn. The 4 directions, right? So you have left, right. Let's look at his right side. So that's right side with the ball in the opposite hand. This is the ball in the opposite hand, right? These are hop jumpers, not escapes. They look like escapes, but they're actually hop jumpers. Now with the ball in his right hand going to that, it's a very similar animation. It's almost an in and out style animation, but particularly to his left side, he's got this much faster one. And look at how quick he cross launched out of that, right? So ball in the left hand, he's got the fast one and a really pretty snappy cross launch, considering this card doesn't have maxed lightning launch, which is an incredible badge. So if you have that badge, hold on to that. But considering he doesn't have max lightning launch or max speed yet, that's a really fast launch for that animation. So I'm going to be looking out for Donovan Mitchell cards because out of his left hand, with the ball in his left hand, his hop jumper gives him some crazy options. Now I tried to burst too early. I got a slower burst. It's a subtler game. Look, now I looked at his feet properly, got a faster burst. So this is the thing in MyTeam that we're going to have to adapt to as a community. Is each card is much more of a Street Fighter character or of an Overwatch character. You got to sit down with the character and figure out their mechanics and figure out what's the best way to operate. Now, lucky for all of you, I'll be here doing that for most of the cards. If I can get my hands on a card, I'll do it. Or if the card has SIGs that I know already, I'll break it down. We'll be doing that going forward throughout the year. I haven't done that thus far this year because, as I told you in previous videos, I had to learn the game. I'm not going to get on here and give you guys bad information just so I can be in the rush of the first few days of the game. Not going to do that. But now, I'll be honest, I have a pretty good understanding of the game. So we can start really moving on this information. Okay, so we covered the hop shots. I want to talk about them a little bit more though, before we get out of here. So say I'm moving to the right. This is a go-to for a lot of cards in the game where you're going to the left or to the right and you do a down hop jumper the same way it basically was in 2K20, the way the Hezi was. That works like that in this game. So on all of your cards, see what that looks like, see how quick the bursts are. The same rules still apply though. Unlike in previous years where you can just, did you see that stumble? Unlike in previous years where you could just do it very video game and just get the move out. Now you have to look, like let's look at these for a second. So here, my timing is great. And look at the foot, look at his left foot. As soon as that, you can almost see when my controller input went in. That was basically perfect timing, right? Going off that left foot. And then that one less perfect timing. And now watch going the other way here. Terrible timing. Look at his foot planting, right? I didn't let his, you see, I didn't let that happen. So he didn't get a good burst. So it's not just about the moves. It's about controlling your character, controlling them as if they were pretty much a human being dribbling the basketball. And now I can see where that stumble is going to come in. I can see where the burst is going to come in. And that's something you would have to practice. But that is a go-to move in the game, is this, step back, hop jumper, and bursting out of that and learning your timings to burst out of that. So as you saw, I mean, again, I haven't practiced with Donovan Mitchell at all. I have not been playing MyTeam. I've just been learning the game, playing a lot of my career because I can throw in a bunch of different SIGs. But as you can see from my different timings with Donovan Mitchell, probably about 5 minutes of practice getting used to what those animations look like, and you'll be bursting with this card way above what his potential really looks like. All right, so we have to talk about one more. We talked about left, right. We talked about holding down on the stick, which also works from a regular, standstill direction. So now we have to talk about the go-to shots, right? So go-to shots on Donovan Mitchell. This is what it looks like. Okay, so with the go-to shots, you can break out of them at basically any time. So let's look at all of these animations. So all of those animations, let's look at this, are all potential, right? So this burst right here, that's something I'm immediately looking at. This crossover right here is also something I'm looking at because this looks like a size up in the beginning. And so now I have options in these first two parts of it. And then he has a snatchback, which also gives me options. So let's try some of those options. All right, now that's just the cross, right? What I say, you have options coming out of it, right? So I basically use that as a size up explosion going to the other hand. And it wasn't a huge explosion, but he kept his momentum going, right? And then just go. So without getting too into the weeds on that particular launch, let's call that option 1. All right, let's let it play out for the cross. Option 2, just launched out of that cross, right? And let's let it play out to the snatchback. And then option 3, and he can burst out of that. So that's just the breakdown of that move. Now let's look at that in combination with a few other things. We'll come back to that in a moment, but we're going to look at that. We're going to come back to that after looking at a few things. Okay, so now let's look at his size ups. So these are the same as last year. There's nothing really different to know from last year. You see, if you do it in rhythm, you'll get these animations. This looks a lot like last year, which is fine because I actually liked the dribbling last year. It's obviously much more layered and complex and interesting this year. I'm all for it. I like the way it feels a lot more this year, but this part is just like last year. So out of these moves, you can burst, but it goes by the same rules. You have to look at your timing. You have to look at what the character is, what the dribble style is, and that burst is going to be different. But if you have a dribble style that's not good for bursting out of size ups, like I don't know how great Mitchell's is, right? Like that's okay, but he has a big hitch there, right? Let's look at his cross launch out of that. Cross launch is okay, but he kind of goes out to the side, right? So what do? Okay. What I would do with Donovan Mitchell in particular, and again, this isn't a Mitchell tutorial, but the principles that work for him will work for everyone. I'm looking at his size up as a reset. What do I mean by reset? I mean, if I want, say, my go-to move to come out, right? I need him to be stable and I need to know what hand the ball is in. So if I come over this way, okay, I used his size up in and out to stabilize him. And now I can trust that I can go to his go-to move. Now that was a really slow one, a slow combo, but the principle is the same, right? So if I was to do that same thing, let's say I'm going to do that. I stabilized with the behind the back. Then I went to the go-to move and now we're off to the races. Okay. So using your size ups to stabilize when your character isn't launching from them is still a great use. And we did that last year where we would do basically pro dribble style, stabilize, and then we would pro dribble style again. And when we get out of there, right? So that also is going to work. So these are things that can work on virtually every card that can dribble, is stabilizing with that size up. But now out of that side, you also have other options this year, which is great. So for instance, you've got your rhythm dribbles, right? So let's look at, and then you've got your aggressive, size up combos. All right. So let's look at all of this in combination real quick. So rhythm dribbles into his go-to, right? Into a double snatch. Okay. Now he's starting to add layers to the earlier explosiveness that we saw before. Hezi canceling is still in the game, but it depends on the Hezi you have. We're still learning which Hezis are the best for bursting out of things, but that is still a factor. If you don't know what Hezi canceling is, it's just throwing in a hesitation before you do something and then bursting out of it. So let's see. So another thing that's new this year with the size ups is your explosive moves, your explosive like escape moves, the behind the back in particular, don't happen unless you do a move first, right? So that's his explosive escape. But he has to do a move first to get that off. But if you do your Hezi fast enough, you can do it from a standstill. Let's see if he can do that. He can. Now, I think his Hezi might be a little too slow to do it perfectly. Again, I have not even messed with him. You guys are seeing Donovan Mitchell, the beta, right? But no, he can do it. He can do it. There you go. You just have to be really fast. If you look at the controller on screen, I can get right to his explosive cross if I do the Hezi very quickly. So Hezi canceling is in the game, and we'll probably find more ways to use it as the game continues. But that is a way to get to your explosive behind the back. Your behind the back escape is through that Hezi. Okay, so let's look at your other escape. So these escapes are still in the game and still good. And now we're going to talk about a little bit more complex stuff. So if you combo, let's say you do that escape where he goes to the side. So you can combo that with other escapes, but you can also combo that with everything I talked about so far today, right? So let's look at that escape, and then let's try to go to that escape and cancel it early into the go-to shot, right? And not the go-to shot, I'm sorry, the hop shot to the other side, right? So escape, hop shot to the other side. Now we're starting to dance a little bit. Now remember that left side joint, and now we could burst out of that, right? So this is the dribbling system that you have to really learn. And those are the basics. Obviously, there's going to be a full dribble tutorial for every single move in the game. But what I wanted to convey is this is how the dribbling system works. And this is how you can start to find success in MyTeam this year. It's not going to be so much about one SIG changing the game as it is about how the SIGs together give you different opportunities to explode and get to scoring opportunities as well. Now, the last thing I'll say, and this is just as important as anything else, I said this in my early video, but basically, because of the foot planting in the game, because it's so much more snappy and subtle, so a lot of the my career players are struggling with stopping because they're sprinting, and they don't realize that because you're controlling a character, if a person runs at full speed, they can't just stop, right? Like their knees would explode, they fall on their face. So you have to decelerate before you go to a full stop. Now, that having been said, the deceleration is good in this game if you aren't accelerating at max speed. You just have to not be going at max speed and you can stop. Because of the foot planting and the way it settles you, there are a lot of things in the game that you can shoot off of that you couldn't before. But you just have to settle yourself down with the left stick before you do so. You can also settle yourself with a hezi, right? If you're going to the side. Now, there are some hezis that are way better at that. Like Garland's really good, but you see here, he can get to it, but you see there's a big delay there, right? Going to the right and then heziing with him, he does this hop and then he can shoot. And it's a very long delay before he gets to that. A character like Darius Garland, I think also Chris Paul, their hezi's very short. So it just basically stops them. However, you can't put those SIGs on, right? So what do? You just use your left stick. You know, you do the same thing. You're going in that direction. You know when you're going to score, you use your left stick to do that. And this is another philosophical element of the game that's totally different. Now you're setting your opponent up for what you want to attack with. So you're thinking, how are they playing me? What am I taking advantage of? That's going to be a big thing this year. And so now, if you know they're playing off of you and trying to stop the drive, you're not going to go full speed like you would have in previous years, right? You're going to look like you're going full speed. You're going to set up like you're going full speed, look like you're attacking, and then you're actually going to punish them by stopping short. But you have to plan that ahead. You cannot be running full speed and then react to them and then get the same clean stop. And I'll show you what will happen if you do that, right? So you get a stop, but holding back on that button, it's possible, but it's much harder. So when you hold back on the left stick like that, you can get a stop. And Donovan Mitchell actually has a really, really good stop. It's not going to be as fast. This is fine, but I'm just showing you to be aware of it, right? It's not going to be as fast. And if you're holding down that way, you can get this, right? So if you're holding down after attacking to get this stop, you have to let go of the stick to avoid that animation, which obviously not only is it a harder shot because you're moving, but you look at the speed of it on Mitchell and it's way slower, right? And then even if I get that same stop and I let go and then shoot, he still has to recover a little bit when he's going at max speed. Whereas if I go if I'm going moderate speed, he's in the air right away. Straight up basketball, right? Stop and pop. You can just get right up in the air. I crossed over there, but you get the idea. Stop and pop. He can go right into his shot if you are setting your opponent up and playing the mind games with them. And so I think it's still very early. We have not fully learned the game yet. And I think this is a situation where almost the better you were last year, the more you're compromised because you're trying to do the stuff that you have already been good at, the stuff that worked before. And I don't think that is going to be the approach that lasts throughout the year. I think as the game goes on, people are going to figure out more and more the things that are effective in the game. Now, there are just 2 more scoring tips I want to add to this dribble tutorial, because we dribble to score, obviously, right? So obviously, if you're playing behind the pick and roll, all of the left stick stuff comes into play. Now, I will also say that rhythm shooting is clearly very, very strong. So, get into the rhythm shooting. This is Hall of Fame. I've never really, again, tried Donovan. So, but you can see how powerful it is just by that. I will say the rhythm shooting, I think, is according to the speed of the jumper. So in my career, it'll always be the same tempo, but in my team, I would say be careful, because it might be the slower jumpers you move the stick up slower, and the faster jumpers you move the stick up faster, because when I came over here, I was doing everything too fast compared to my career, because these jumpers are much slower. But stay tuned, we'll learn more about that going forward. But the other thing is layup timing. I would probably put real player percentage on, because the layups are pretty, the timing of the layups is pretty weird right now, because there's a lot of wide open layups being missed. And this is entirely fixed by just going to real player percentage. I think as long as your player has over a 70, they should be fine. Let me know how that works out for y'all in the MyTeam space. I will be doing that myself and giving you my results. But all evidence I've seen are basically just take the layup timing off entirely and let that be automatically decided by the game. And the only thing with that is, obviously, the higher your rating is, the better chance of a layup you're going to have if it's contested. But really, we're talking about these open layups, right? So your scoops and stuff like that, where you're taking an open opportunity. If you've been missing those, turn that layup timing off. One more thing I would like to add about the dunking. These are just quick scoring tips. So last year, if someone was behind you, you would stick dunk and be very clear of them. But this year, when you do that, they have a chance to be pulled into an animation from behind and change your animation. So the way it works this year is, if someone is in front of you, you stick dunk to posterize them. But if someone is behind you, you do your regular dunk packages. Just up on the stick will give you that free and clear dunk where they won't attach to you like that. So I bring those things up because these are going to be combined with all of the dribbling information. This is an overall MyTeam, how to not only get better at dribbling, but how to use that to score in MyTeam as well. So that's going to cover it for today. Obviously, there's much more to talk about, but I don't want this to be a 7-hour video. But hopefully these tips can get you, the MyTeam community, started in getting way better at the game and extracting some of the power out of these cards. Because I can tell you, as someone who was pretty solid at dribbling last year and played a ton of point guard, played a ton of MyTeam, when I first played these cards, I'll show you my team actually. And I have not touched the game. You'll see from my MyTeam rep, right? My MyTeam rep, everything's on 0. So when I came into the game and I had these cards, most of these cards are cards I had already. A few I pulled from, just season and opportunities that came through playing the game on the other end of things. But I tried all of these cards out. I tried Mitchell, I tried Vince, I tried Tatum, I tried Derrick Rose. I couldn't do anything with any of those cards. And not even Lillard, I was just shooting leaners. I couldn't dribble and do anything with him. And now I look at this team and go, you know what? I can work with these. Now I know enough to work with all of these. Well, not all of these cards, but everybody who's a Ruby or above. I know I can work with all of these cards. And I'll actually throw in Tatum and Conley as well. I know that I can move with these cards, I can attack with these cards, and I can find success with these cards based on the SIGs that they have. Again, this isn't a breakdown of each of these cards, but each of these cards has some sauce that, particularly to the guards and the forwards, they have some sauce that allows them to score and be effective in the game. But you have to invest some time and experimentation to learn what is good about each of the cards. Vince has great explosive stuff. Jason Tatum has great ways to get to his jumper. Derrick Rose is extremely explosive if you know the right stuff to do. So that is going to wrap it up. I hope this was useful. We are going to be getting into the weeds. I'm sorry it hasn't. I'm not sorry. It was intentional. I'm actually quite glad I made the decision I made to not just come in here and be like, this is the best thing to do, blah, blah, blah. No, we're not doing that. I wanted to get you the best information I possibly could. And I feel pretty confident in everything I've said so far. And we'll see how this works out going forward as we explore more and more. but we are still in the learning period. It hasn't even officially been a week. Even from early release, it hasn't even been, I think it's maybe a week right now. Did it come out Thursday last week or Wednesday? Either way, barely a week since the game's been out in terms of early release. Not even a week from the main release. It just came out Friday. We are still in the lab learning this game, but now I think we have the tools to begin to build that skill set to really have fun and find success in the game. And I hope you all are able to do that. Please like, subscribe once again if you have not already. And as always, I cannot thank you enough for the support. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers, which is incredible to me. I did not think we'd be there at this point going into the channel, but I'm really, really looking forward to the rest of the year. There's gonna be a ton of my team content, but we had to figure out the game first. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.